Hey there, Screen Beans. It's Rachel here, coming in at the top of the episode to toss up a content warning. During our discussion of the film Allen v. Farrow, we touch on some pretty heavy subject material, including sexual assault and underage predation. If you wish to skip that section of our discussion, it starts at 43 minutes and lasts until an hour 16 minutes or the 76-minute mark, depending on your podcatcher of choice. Both Matt and I want you to know that if you need to step away from this episode entirely, we completely understand given the subject material. But before you go, please support our guest, Bossman. You can find everything that he's up to on his website, hoss.fun. That's HOSS.FUN. So if we don't see you in this episode, we'll see you at the movies in a fortnight.
I've got the looks and the charm of an old movie star. Cary Grant, if you will, so I find it bizarre that this girl should refuse to step into my car. She must be shy, she'll come around, it's just a matter of time. Aurora, Aurora.
Hey there, Screen Beans, and welcome to Screen Snark, the podcast that celebrates all of the shows that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts. I am Rachel Quirky Shank.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
Ha-ha!
Ha-ha!
Gotcha. Got him.
Got him! Exclamation point.
Got him.
Oh, good. If
With
Jesse...
the intro, got him.
If Jesse has transferred any catchphrase of his to yours, I'm so glad that it's got him.
Got him. It made me giggle
He's
while
very funny.
editing.
He's very
I loved
funny.
it. It's mine now. I've taken it.
There you go.
Yum, yum, yum. I am absorber of catchphrases. Kiss your dad square on the lips.
Love it. Whew, what a week. And it's only
What a
Tuesday,
life.
right? It's only Tuesday, Lemon. Anyway, this isn't a show about lemons. This is a show.
So what a way to start.
This is a show where we talk about the most recent thing we watched, and we have an incredible guest.
Is this show a lemon? Tune in to find out.
I know it could be. By the end, you
don't
decide.
know.
You tell us. But our guest is the incredible YouTuber, the brilliant, lovely, and talented Haas Bossman. Thank you for being here, Haas.
Hello.
Bossman.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very
you for
excited to
being
talk to you
here.
about your channel. I binge watched a ton of it today, and the first thing I noticed was, man, this dude's got a broadcaster voice. And I know broadcaster voices, and I was like, I could listen to this guy read the phone book. So thankfully, you don't read the phone book. Thankfully, you do other way more interesting things than read the phone book. But
if you did read the phone book, this podcast would be into it.
yeah, totally.
Well, thank you very much.
But we will, of course, talk more about that in a minute. First, as always, we will talk about the most recent thing we've watched. And I brought a gem that the internet apparently hated, but I loved from start to finish. The most recent thing I watched was the cinematic classic that is Mortal Kombat.
Thank you.
The new Mortal Kombat movie.
Yes, it is a treasure. Mortal Kombat.
So, I mean, listeners of the podcast know that I have a few video game podcasts. I am a fan of video games. And so I went into this with some expectations. I also, though, am someone who grew up unabashedly loving the original cheesy Mortal Kombat movie. I loved it. I loved the soundtrack. Mortal Kombat Annihilation was terrible, but I liked the original movie. I had fun watching it. And so I was excited about this one because it looked like it had obviously better special effects and higher stakes and was a little more self-serious with some of the cheesiness that we love from the series. And before I watched it, the day it came out last Friday, I saw a lot of internet hate on Twitter, which I mean, let's not be surprised. Twitter hating on something that everyone wants to love, that's pretty par for the
Twitter
course.
is there to be the burden part of Twitter with that.
So, I went in guarded a little bit and I ended up loving it. Was there a sensible story? No, absolutely not.
No.
Was the plot paper thin and the characters pretty bare? Yes.
Yes.
But did I have fun from start to finish? 110%.
Absolutely, I am on the same boat as you are, Matt. I watched it as a watch party with my a cappella group,
Excellent.
which is, I think, the only way you should watch it. Choirfly is the name of my acapella group. Check them out. And we were on our Discord server, sort of like having a chat along, and I just had a blast. And it got to the point where I wasn't even paying attention to the Discord chat because I was just like, I am in this movie with these characters. One of them who yells so loud. I love you, Kano. You piece of shit. Ugh, I loved it.
It's funny that you bring up Kano because he was the highlight for me for a multitude of reasons. For one, Josh Lawson is a national treasure from Australia. I know him from House of Lies, and he was in Superstore, and he's been in a bunch of different things. He's really funny, really kind. I met him a bunch of times when he was doing theater, like a really good dude. And like when I heard he was going to play Kano, one of arguably the most famous Australian video game character, I was like, oh, that's perfect. And like I just rode that high through the whole movie. He was charming, he was annoying, he was hilarious. Like he hammed it up the whole time, and it was so like it was somewhat like it made me proud. This guy that I met who's a working actor got to play this pretty iconic video game character and do it well. It was delightful. Also, the actor playing Jax, I first saw in Supergirl as he was Jimmy Olsen in Supergirl, and he was great in that. And so like it was cool to see him do this. Cool. I liked the casting. I thought the fact that it was predominantly Asian actors was also great because the first movie had a lot more white people than it probably needed. Although, let's all be real, Christopher Lambert is a tough act to follow as Raiden because in the original movie he was excellent. But the current Raiden was also really good. And I also thought the story was interesting for what we got, right? Like, I don't want to spoil too much of it because...
Haas, have you seen the recent Mortal Kombat installment?
I have not seen that yet, and that's one of those movies like the trailers were coming on, and I'm like really behind on movies in general right now, but like big long list of stuff that I want to see, but like I've been hearing people talk about, I listen to a lot of movie podcasts and watch a lot of movie channels and stuff on YouTube, and I've been hearing people talk about that trailer so much, and it was just like in one ear and out the other, like a Mortal Kombat movie. I've never been like a huge fan of the games or anything. I mean, I think they're fun and, I love like gory stuff, like a big horror fan. So I've always enjoyed that aspect of them. But I, like hearing that they were making a new Mortal Kombat movie was just like, I really was not even like registering that was happening. And then suddenly I turn on HBO Max like a few days ago after hearing people talk about it and just like, oh, the trailer for this, I guess I'll watch this. And I was like so excited about it. So I am excited to see it. I don't really care that much about spoilers though, because I really just want to see that good gore stuff. It looks like super creative and fun. Good. So I am going to watch it, but
yeah.
How I feel about it.
Exactly.
It's how I feel about the gory stuff. Are you kidding me?
It is creative the way they do the gore in the movie. But like I'll talk about something that's early in the movie that is in the first 7 minutes, which they've released and is in the trailers a lot. Like they shaped a lot of the movie around Scorpion and Sub-Zero, who are arguably two of the most famous characters from the movie, and
the two characters I could name before going into this Mortal Kombat movie.
Right. And they are so the opening is the fight, the titular fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, where Sub-Zero kills Scorpion's family, which is like the driving plot of a lot of the games and their rivalry. And I don't think it's a spoiler to give that away. But what's interesting is they frame Scorpion as a hero in this fight, which is interesting because in the games, he's kind of an anti-hero. Like, there's no clear, like, they were a warring tribe of ninjas. Like, I don't know if tribe is the right word, group, but like, they were a rival group of ninjas, and like, it was clear that the clans hated each other, right? But there was never really like this one, like, so I believe in the lore, Sub-Zero always killed Scorpion's family, but it's just very interesting the way this was shot and was filmed, and the fight scene was choreographed. Like, it was clear to make Scorpion the hero, which is really interesting to me. And like, I've always loved Scorpion as a character, and the actor playing Scorpion in the movie is like a well-known character actor. He's done a ton of really great stuff. He was in Westworld most recently. Like, I thought that was a really interesting change to make it more heavy-handed that he was the hero in that fight, or was like, was the brutal murder of his family was always part of the story, but like it took front and center in this movie because the movie starts with it, and I thought that was a really interesting starting point for this narrative.
Yeah, I love the beginning where just like somebody dies, and then their baby is crying, and it's like, that baby is gonna grow up to be somebody, and then it's like 400 years later. It's fine, don't worry about it. Also, Matt, a large group of ninjas is called a clan.
Clan, yes, thank you.
A clan of ninjas.
Clan.
I googled it.
I appreciate it.
Don't worry, I went there because it was gonna stick in my brain. Did you know that a group of pandas is called an embarrassment?
I didn't, but an embarrassment of pandas is amazing.
It's an embarrassment of pandas.
That rolls off the tongue weirdly.
It's great.
Fun fact, that's also what you call a group of gamers, capital G gamers. You call them an embarrassment.
Good embarrassment.
Come at me, gamers. I guess I don't know. But
said the asshole who streams on
exactly.
Twitch.
That's why. If you're taking me seriously right now,
sponsored by Fuser. Jeez, get out of here.
But yeah, no, I thought it was an interesting way to shape the story and start the movie. And like, the main character in the movie is Cole Young, who is essentially an audience stand-in character. He doesn't exist.
An OC.
Yep. He doesn't exist in the Mortal Kombat games, although I'd be interested to see him show up in the games now. That would be a fun thing. But he has his own story and background, and we find out some stuff that I'm not going to spoil. A lot of people hated this character because he wasn't an actual Mortal Kombat character. And I do on one side get the fact that like Mortal Kombat has over like 35 to 40 characters. So like to make another character for the movie when you have so many characters does seem odd. But also,
and it's a real injustice that they didn't make Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, exactly.
The protagonist of
or
this
RoboCop
Mortal
or Terminator
movie. or the Joker.
But
is the protagonist of this Mortal Kombat movie.
But I thought that he was fine. My biggest sticking point with this movie, I think, if I really had to critique it at any level, was the writing was not great. But but I thought all of the actors did everything they could with the material they had, and I don't even think that the script was necessarily bad. It's just clear that they are in a hurry to get to what the next movie will be if we get another movie. Like, this was all primer for where this can go as a series, I think. And I don't think it really fails. I was recently, as of when we're recording, a guest on Real Movie Critic for the Cineguy talking about Mortal Kombat. And Hans, who's a diehard Mortal Kombat fan, did an episode of Mortal Kombat 2 for side quests. Like, he was disappointed by the movie. And I can see it. I can get it. If you're a diehard fan of the games, I get why you might be disappointed, but for me, as someone who loves the games but also realizes this is a different medium, they had to make changes. It wasn't going to be the same as the games. The same way books get adapted and other things like comic books becoming movies. Marvel has done a good job of sort of one-to-one doing that. But like back in the Wild West of comic book movies in the early X-Men and Spider-Man days, it wasn't one-to-one. They were trying to figure out how to make it work in another medium. And I think video games are no different. And it's why I'm leery of the Last of Us TV show. But, again, it's a TV show and not a movie, so they can take more time with it. And so, like, Mortal Kombat, I think, is the same problem. Like, as a movie, you got to get to the action, but you also have to tell a story, as incoherent as that may be.
Yeah, I agree. I think that some of the problem... I don't have a problem with the plot.
Yeah.
At all. Let me just make it clear. like Earth is in a tournament. Like every some odd years, I guess a couple hundred. And Earth doesn't do anything to be like, we should probably remember that we have to do that every couple hundred years. Oops, we dropped the ball. So instead, it's just like, how about a bunch of adults figure out what their magical power is? It rips. It rules. I love it. Co-sign it. But there is some problem in the writing in the way that like some of these ideas are literally communicated. Yeah. I'm going to pick one from the very early on. When we first meet Cole Young, he is a fighter for hire, essentially. and he's about to go in the ring, and they're like, who's gonna be on your corner, like helping you and coaching you? I forget what they call that person. And it's this girl, and it's this young girl. She's like
his daughter,
early teen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's just a girl.
At that point,
and they don't really communicate that it's his daughter till like way after the fight. You're just like, I guess he adopted a vagrant child? I don't... Is this his ward, his sister, an aspiring fighter who's like, he's mentoring? Who is this child to this person? And it's way too late in the game and dropped too loosely. It's just like, and then he kisses his girlfriend, who is actually his wife. Yeah. So it's just like the communication of things, the delegation of information is very sloppy in the piece, and you're just kind of left lost for a while. Like, oh, am I wrong? I didn't catch that the first time, because it's just, they're not really communicating some like beats that I feel they want to, and that's definitely a failing of the piece. But as somebody who loves just like bad, weird, gonzo, gory movies, like, thank you. This one I'll take.
Yeah, no, I
don't ask much for this. And I've never played a Mortal Kombat game, so I have no skin in that race at all.
See, but I'm glad you enjoyed it without that context. Because, like, for me, they made leaps that I understood because I played the games. The fact that it didn't bother you, like, for example, and this is also pretty early on, like, everyone knows from the trailers that, like, Cabal and Melina and a few other characters who are typically villains.
Hold on. Let me just explain. Cabal is Robot Deadpool.
Is Robot Deadpool, yeah.
Melina is Mouth of Sauron Lady.
Okay.
And the other one is Pretty Wing Wife.
Yes, Natara.
Nailed it.
So the Outworld characters, and Shang Tsung specifically, who is the villain of the movie, like
the not
Raiden. Like, I know
Fire Lord Ozai.
I know who all of these people are because I played the games. And they are introduced, and it's clear they're painted as the bad guys. They're shown in Outworld, all that stuff. But there's never, like, Raiden does explain what's happening, but there's never this moment where, like, why is Cabal here? We don't find out why Cabal is related at all until much later on in the most awkward way. I won't get into it. But, like, also, Melina, there's no explanation. And I know Melina's character backstory, again, because I'm a fan of the games. And I think that's the part that makes me the saddest, is there's no development for the villains, which I think the Outworld stuff is really interesting. I think Shang Tsung actually mostly being a puppet for Shao Kahn, which they don't get into in this, is interesting. I think that, you know, why Melina works for Shang Tsung is interesting. And I also have that context from the games, and we just don't give it to the audience. And I think it's a bummer. And even with the heroes, like, we get context clues for, like, Jax and Sonya serving together, and, like, why Liu Kang and Kung Lao are there, and all of that stuff. But, like, still, they could have done a better job of giving us more backstory, even with Cole, like you said. Like, we don't know anything about Cole really until we get a lore dump, and even then, it's not a lot. And
he loves his family.
Right.
Very much.
And, like I said, I loved Kano's performance. I loved Josh Lawson, but that's more because I know that person and like that actor. And I was in...
Oh, I had no idea who that actor was.
And you still loved it.
He knocked it out of the park. Like, not to just say my favorite thing, he yells so loud and is so xenophobic. He gets his magic power. It rules. It's so good.
Yeah.
I love it. This movie's so wild.
I think, Oh, go ahead, Haas.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, something that's like was always so kind of creepy and uncanny to me about the Mortal Kombat games is they have this quality to them. I think it's because of the photorealistic in the first, the ones for Sega and stuff, like the sort of photorealistic look to it. And that was always something that, like, I felt like the movies from the 90s didn't capture that. Obviously, like, they're not nearly as, like, gory and, like, dark as the games are. But, like, watching the trailer for this one, it seemed like there was, like, more, not just, like, rated R, like, gore levels, and violence levels, but also, like, a a sort of creepy darkness. Like obviously a, Mortal Kombat movie isn't going to like hopefully not going to like give me nightmares or like really scare me like a great like horror movie or something would. But would you say that there was like a little bit of an uncanniness, a little creepiness to this movie? Or is it more just pure fun?
I think I was having too much fun to notice, creepy undertones. Probably like Outworld is a creepy looking place, but overall it's kind of just more like fantasy adventure.
I mean, there is some uncanny valley with some of the characters and stuff, which is by design. I think that like what I love about this movie, and I think it does justice to the game, is like Mortal Kombat is a game where you could brutally murder people, but in the same game you could uppercut someone and one of the developers pops on the screen and goes toasty. So like that tongue-in-cheek plus self-seriousness is what the first movie almost like sort of did, and what this movie I think does. They shoehorn in some direct references to the game that feel a little ham-fisted, but I think it adds to the corniness of the games. The games are always kind of corny. I know the more modern ones, like I've played Mortal Kombat 9 and a little bit of Mortal Kombat 10, which reset the timeline. I think that it's always been self-serious with some tongue-in-cheek and like some wink to the camera. And I think the movie does that really well. I think that's where its strength lies, is this movie is taking itself seriously, but also, especially in like Kano's performance and some of Liu Kang's performance, like it also isn't taking itself that seriously.
Yeah, it's a very silly script that is delivered with all of the earnestness that you would want to see in like good acting.
Yeah.
No one is delivering their lines with like that winky feeling of like, I know what I'm saying is really wild. The shit-eating grin of the second time that Indiana Jones shoots a guy instead of fighting him, but it's actually technically like earlier in his actual linear life, so it doesn't make any sense, but it's just that sort of like meta critique, that meta like wink and nod. None of the actors are doing that. It is devoid from this piece. Everyone is like here to play. Everyone is very concerned that this Mortal Kombat, if it goes badly, is going to end with Outworld taking over Earth. Which again, why wouldn't governments be kind of concerned about that? I love this movie.
Yeah.
No one cares. The government don't care. Who even knew?
Yeah, I think
who even knew about Mortal Kombat? This incredibly important thing.
Incredibly important thing that Sonya by herself has been researching with no help. Well, with Jax's help, I guess. Yeah, I think ultimately, this movie is entertaining, and that's what I want from it. It's way back when I brought Sonic the Hedgehog to Screen Snark, like, I enjoyed it. I had fun. Yeah. I don't think Sonic was the best Sonic movie we could even get, but it was fun, and I enjoyed it, and so I'll take it. And honestly, seeing the screenshots of Sonic 2 and Knuckles being in it makes me very happy because he's my favorite character. But like from a video game movie at this point, like Detective Pikachu is always going to be the bar, right? Like that was an excellent movie as well as with minor critiques. But it was an excellent movie beyond just being a good video game movie. So the bar is more around Sonic or Mortal Kombat for like, I just want to be entertained. Not all of them have to be Detective Pikachu. Now that we've found a way to make these things entertaining in a different medium.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. I would say watching the Mortal Kombat movie felt very similar to what playing Injustice 2 felt like. It's kind of just like, there's just some pretty fun dressing around what really matters, and that's the fights. And the fights are so good, and they're all absolutely earned. Like every single one of them is very akin to a musical number in a musical. They are earned emotionally. They achieve this like frenzy of something, and then we are fighting, and it is very good. More action movies need to realize that their fight scenes are musical numbers, and you have to earn them. It's very important, and they earn it because the actors are fully into what is going on. Like you cannot earn a musical number without being fully integrated into the world and the stakes and how this affects you. Like this movie nails that for me, and I think that's why, as weird as the writing is sometimes, that's enough to like skate me through, like that feeling of frivolity through gory violence.
For sure. And I mean, I'll completely agree. Like, I played the first Injustice, and like I said, I played Mortal Kombat 9, and those are all on the same NetherRealm engine. What NetherRealm, I think, expertly has figured out, and what this movie is trying to ape a little bit, is like in the old Mortal Kombat games, you would just like fight after fight and then get like a cutscene at the end. But in the newer games, the storylines transition into the fight scenes. Like, characters will be talking, and then the character will turn around, and it's the fight scene, and you control the fight. And I think those kind of smooth transitions with not a lot of trimming a lot of the fat off is what makes those stories really strong now. And I hear that Mortal Kombat 11 is actually one of the best stories they've done. I've yet to play it. And so I think the movie, for the most part, does that really well. So when we get the one-on-one fights later with a variety of characters, again, I don't want to spoil, I think it's really very much earned because of how the movie sets up those moments, which were the pinnacle moments for what Mortal Kombat was supposed to be. Anyway, I feel like I could go all night about Mortal Kombat. We should move on to our other choices. So, with that said, yes. I suppose it is time now for me to give a 3-word review for this movie, for Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, same question.
Same question. Without using the words mortal or combat. Can I use combat with a C, since this uses combat with a K?
Only if this answer absolutely
it doesn't. I actually.
If it's a middling review with 3 words and you use combat, won't take it. This has to be gold. This has to be like, I will carve this. I
actually didn't want to use combat in it. I was just being a pain in the ass. Then glorious, gory frivolity.
Hey, those are some of my
your words. Yeah.
Nailed it. Yeah. It's a great flick. Please watch it. If you already have HBO Max, please just like, even if you just put it on in the background, I want this thing to see numbers so I can get a sequel.
Yes,
thank you.
Same.
Please do it for me. You don't have to do it for anybody else. I want to see more of this world, as weird as it is.
So I'm guessing, Rachel, based on our conversation, that while you had a lot to say about this movie, this is not, in fact, the movie you are bringing to the table this week.
No, tis not. I decided that as much as I loved Mortal Kombat, I'm good to talk about it other places at other times. So instead, I watched Shin Godzilla.
Oh my God, you finally watched Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, I did, and it's brilliant.
It is one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen.
It's so good.
It's so good, yeah.
I cannot believe that it's so good. It's one of those movies like, how does this movie exist? Mm-hmm. How does this movie do everything that this movie does? And no one went, don't do this movie. What are you doing? You can't do this movie.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do this. And then they did. They did this movie. I loved it. So I've been thinking about it almost constantly after watching it. So my partner and I rented it, and we were like, well, if we like it, we'll obviously like buy it to keep forever. But we accidentally rented the English dubbed version.
Oh no.
So we were like, So like it started, and I was like, that's the wrong language for this. So we were able to like get the actual other version. So we've rented it twice now.
Nice.
But the English dub version is still available because we didn't watch enough of it. And I'm at that point where I'm just like, I want to watch the English dub version, not because it's good, but because I just want to burn this movie into my mind. And the only way I can really do that is if it's in my language. That's how good this movie is to me, where I'm just like, I will watch it in a worse way to emotionally get it more.
I have a question.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's genius. It's a genius film.
It is absolutely brilliant. I'm curious, do you know the legacy of Shin Godzilla? Do you know why a lot of people also make a big stink about it?
Maybe.
So
I watched a lot of video essays about it too. One where Godzilla becomes a galaxy, and like, please watch this movie and then watch that video because holy shit, it's true. It's amazing.
the reason a lot of anime fans were really geeking out about this movie is because Hideki Anno, who wrote and I believe wrote and directed this movie, is also famously known for creating Evangelion.
Evangelion, yes.
Which is one of the most disturbing animes I've ever seen. It's excellent. It's up there for like it's just up there in the like those movies that you or shows that you only need to watch once and it ruins you, and then you never need to watch it again, but it's brilliant. And like so that was like the legacy for me going into watching this movie, because I was aware of it and I saw it when it came out. And like it just, what's interesting about it is considering the legacy that Godzilla had at the time, like by no means should this have gotten made based on what they were trying to do with Godzilla around that time. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, this is right on the tail end of the not Cranston Godzilla, because not Cranston Godzilla was 2014 and this Toho Godzilla was 2016.
Yeah.
Like that's really close for two movies.
Right. And it's just wild to me that it got made, first of all, and that it was this visceral. I mean, like, I'm always taken back to all of the different transformations that Godzilla goes through. Like, and it's all practical. None of it is digital, which is...
Yeah, no, it's digital.
Oh, is it?
It's
Is it
mocap.
digital?
Yeah.
It's mocap.
It's motion capture. So it is...
That's right.
There is CG elements, but it's CG elements for some of it, like, over a person moving. So it's...
Yeah.
What's really cool about Shin Godzilla is it is both a very real spiritual successor to the original 1954 Gojira, but it is also like an expansion and a sort of like vastly different take. It is like an update, but also like a reboot. It's very interesting. Haas, you've seen Shin Godzilla, yes?
I have, and yeah, it's amazing. The talk about uncanny, that is something about like the visual of that movie that like I remember when I first saw it, I was like squinting, staring, like looking at Godzilla, like, is this practical or it's because it like looks like it is sometimes and it isn't other times, and it does have like this uncanny quality to it that's like it kind of looks like they did like really, really good CGI trying to make it look as practical as possible and pulled it off like pretty well in my opinion. And it's a gorgeous movie in like so many different ways. But I love it.
So many different shots, and like I love Godzilla. Like, give me my sweet kaiju. I will snuggle and kiss and care for forever. I loved this tumorous, bleeding, crackling Godzilla that was just like Cronenbergian. I loved him. I loved how nasty he was and how just like bleeding and dripping and oozing and like, it was so gross. What a gross Godzilla. I love him. I'll keep him. Thank you. It's just a really good take on the manifestation of the fear of nuclear war. Like, it's so interesting because like you don't really put it together a lot until you're presented with a Godzilla like this, where you're like, right, radiation, cancer, that sucks. Oh fuck, the mutations. Like, cancer is literally a mutation, and Godzilla is sort of this cancerous being that we have created. There's so much going on in this movie, just like every second. It's a barrage of information, not just because text is flying at you about where you are, what the weapons are, who this person is in the government, you know, like what their affiliation. Like, it's so much information, and then it's also so much information under that information of just, we are letting you know that this Godzilla is cancerous. We are letting you know that this being is going to transcend its origins of war and waste and all of these and countless death. Like, this is going to move past and take over if we don't stop it. You know, just this idea of Godzilla is evolving to be the deadliest thing on this planet, and what does he evolve into at the last second? What is it? It's doing so much to like satirize bureaucracy and how ineffectual it is, but also like but these are good people. Like, good people get into government. Government is the problem, all while still being very like pro Japan and pro like working together. It's so fascinating that like the people who like come up with the great ideas are the ones who are operating in an anarchism. Like, they are the ones that come together. There's no rank, there's no titles, everyone is free to speak here. That is literally making it an anarchism. Anarchism saves the day from Godzilla, and that is important to me.
I've never thought of it that way. That is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just they're very adamant that this is a space where no one is above anyone else. Mm-hmm. And like, yes, we're pushing Yaguchi a lot because he's sort of like our stand-in, our protagonist, the one person that we can cling to be like, okay, cool, see us through. But like, even he's like, we're on the same level here, and they figure it out through globalism and anarchism. Revolution, babies, let's go.
Yeah, it's really interesting, having only watched the 2014 Godzilla, the not Cranston Godzilla with Bryan Cranston in it, that like, there are similarities even there. Like, the creatures that Godzilla ends up fighting in that movie, and like how they're created, and like what, you know, them like triangle eggs, and when we see the nest, like all that gives me Shin Godzilla vibes, this kind of distortion and deformation of these creatures, these things that we can't wrap our brains around, right? Like, you spend half the movie going, are they insects? They look like insects, so I guess my brain thinks they're insects. And like, Shin Godzilla is like to the nth degree that. And like, also what's interesting is Shin Godzilla, I think, is the ultimate like capstone on a legacy, a complicated legacy of a man who made an anime about essentially kaiju fighting, but with costs, and that the kaiju weren't the most interesting thing about, like, the monsters are not what Evangelion is about. It is, but it's, of course, it's about Shinji, and it's about these people. And like, giving that same person the reins to a Godzilla movie it feels just like a no-brainer, and I still can't quite believe we got it. Like, I really do need to rewatch it. I really do love it, but it's also, again, it's one of those movies that I can't watch a lot because it is so visceral, right? It's, you know, and I think important works of art are like that.
Yeah.
You know, I think something being important or something being your favorite doesn't always mean how many times you've watched it or, you know, how obsessed you are with it. Sometimes it's the mark it's left. And I really do feel like Shin Godzilla. And it also, again, like I brought up 2014, I feel like it affected the future Godzilla movies. Like, you know, back in 2000, we thought Godzilla 2000, which was the first like Japanese Godzilla movie we'd gotten since the, you know, the shitty late 90s, early 2000s one that America tried to make. And, you know, poor Matthew Broderick never recovered. But like, I think that, you know, we thought they were just, after Godzilla 2000, that's what we were going to get. We're going to get more of these Godzilla movies, more modernized, but still kind of people in suits, smashing cities. And like Shin Godzilla showed later, oh no, we can do crazy stuff with this franchise still. Mm-hmm. And I believe it paved the way for then the new American version of Godzilla to do something also different. I mean, also, like I said in our episode when I talked about it, gave us the best line in cinematic history: "Let them fight."
Let them fight. Yeah, I will say that is a close contender in my heart to Zach Cherry in Spider-Man: Far From Home saying, "Hey, Spider-Man,
do a flip!"
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, but
Zach Cherry forever in my heart.
But yeah,
I'll be my best friend. Calling out to you.
But I do agree with you, Rachel. I think that this Godzilla movie, while being visceral and grotesque and awe-inspiring, is also a very thinking Godzilla movie. Not that the other ones weren't, but a lot of them were allegory without, you know, it was just, it's a monster movie, but you can make connections. This is very much clearly going, no, this is the connection. This is what we're trying, like, it's not, it's spelling it out for you pretty much.
It's very deliberately... almost hitting you over the head with the idea that Godzilla is this literary manifestation of everything that is terrifying and fearful about nuclear energy and weaponry. It's just that if it can grow exponentially, that's a problem. It's so cool how they end this with the freezing and just being like, we have to learn to live with this thing.
Yeah.
Like there's no really putting this like entity back in the bottle because it's out now. It's over. It's that same feeling of like the first like hydrogen atoms like splitting and exploding. Just like, well, we can't. We got to learn to move on and live with this and maybe and hope that it doesn't end all of life as we know it. You know, I love when pieces can give you something that is so fun to look at. Like, I think that this movie is so fun to look at. Like, the shot composition is beautiful. Godzilla is disgusting in the best way. Yeah. But then it's still taking its time to tell you a story with a pan out. Just that moment of Yaguchi and Ann Patterson, Kyoko, talking about the U.S. plan and how they're standing in like front of a parking garage. And as they're talking about this idea of the U.S. dropping another nuke on Japanese soil, they get the camera pulls out, making these two characters smaller and smaller and smaller. And you don't have to be like a cinema scholar to understand that the filmmaker is telling you they're getting smaller and smaller and more powerless in the face of this like imperialist bully who's kept them under their thumb after like committing repeated atrocities upon them, like, and they just have to like sit there and take it. The planes are already coming, Prime Minister. They're already on the way here. You didn't get a say in this, man. Like, it's so great. But then it's still, like, not so cruel and scathing toward the U.S. It's like, This is another, like, weird entity out of a bottle. We can't really put it back now. We can't really, like, put this away. We have to move forward. You know, it's so good. It's doing so much. I can't believe how much this Godzilla movie is doing. I'm sorry. I could talk about this for my entire life. It is occupied my entire soul.
You are in very good company here. I think this is a Shin Godzilla friendly podcast.
Thank you for letting me purge.
Sure. I have plans to bring future guest Derek Van Dyke on because he has been very public about the fact that he wants to do a Godzilla podcast. And so I'm hoping to have him on at some point to promote. And maybe we'll do like a Godzilla spectacular. But anyway.
I'd love that. Watch the Broderick one because I think that's what we deserve.
Yeah, right.
As a podcast.
Rachel,
as Americans. That's when we really
Americans,
deserve, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can't argue there. That's true.
We deserve that punishment.
We do.
We've earned it.
Yeah.
More than that. This and more than this.
Rachel, if you had to sum up Shin Godzilla in just 3 words without using the word Shin or Godzilla,
I got this.
How would you sum up this movie?
Tumorous kaiju boardrooms.
Excellent. Perfect.
Nailed it.
That almost felt like a haiku.
Perfect. Just literally a perfect comedy as well. I forgot to mention what a perfect comedy this is.
Yeah.
It knows. We got to go to another meeting. All of us. Just to a different room. We need another press conference. I love it.
It's a perfect movie.
I want to live watching that movie.
There you go. Good life plans.
I want to alternate that and Hausu. Like,
there you
just go. Those two, just like
forever.
Back and forth. Forever. That's true love.
Well, now it is our incredible guest's turn. So, Haas, what is the most recent thing you have watched that you've brought to discuss with us?
Well, it's a little unorthodox what I watched most recently that I want to talk about in terms of like, a movie podcast, but been watching a lot of versuses lately. Speaking of Kong, I watched Godzilla vs. Kong and Ford versus Ferrari. I just saw that the other night for the first time, and wow, I was kind of blown away with how much I loved that. It was just good, like meat and potatoes kind of movie. My girlfriend and I both were like, we don't care about cars at all, but we absolutely loved that. And Christian Bale is like so much fun in that movie. Have y'all seen it?
Not yet. No. I want to.
Highly recommend that. It's definitely one of those that's like, how do they make this? I mean, really, I think it just kind of illustrates that all you really need for a movie or a story in general to be good is to just have good characters, and it could be almost like literally about anything.
Good characters, pretty costumes. You don't need anything more for my little theater, baby.
Yes.
It's fine. I've watched this shit in black box. That's it. Our town, that's all.
Matt Damon is a lot of fun in it, and Christian Bale is like, it's just so cool to see like a quote unquote serious actor get to like really have fun with a role and be kind of a lovable asshole, which is always a fun kind of character. But weirdly, Godzilla versus Kong, Ford versus Ferrari, and then and seriously, like I haven't really been watching a lot of movies at all lately, and normally I'll watch a lot of like B-tier horror movies, just because it's like that always kind of feels like you don't have a whole lot to lose there. You can half pay attention to it, and but I love like I said earlier, like I love gore and stuff, and like just horror movies in general.
I am on the proverbial edge of my seat. I'm so excited.
But I don't mean to disappoint. Godzilla versus Kong, great fights in that. Ford versus Ferrari, cool racing. The really sort of unorthodox thing to bring on a movie podcast, but also kind of appropriate for just kind of what's been on my mind. Alan v. Pharaoh. Have you guys watched Alan v. Pharaoh on HBO Max?
I have not. No.
I have no idea what this is. Tell me everything.
Okay. So, y'all, I don't want to get into like gritty details because it is not a fun topic, but it is about Woody Allen.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That Alan and Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
sorry, you sent me to levels of like fantasy, and I was like, what is this? It like owls?
Yeah.
Like Owlin v. Pharaoh?
Oh yeah, like a Woody. The Owls of Ga'Hoole.
Ga'Hoole.
Ga'Hoole. I watched that movie. It's weird.
It's very weird.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I know Zack Snyder directed it, which is weird in and of itself. But
fascist owls, it's great. The owls do a eugenics. It's buck wild.
Really, that's Zack Snyder. I'm pretty sure he's like really obsessed with Ayn Rand, right? Like he's kind of this sort of libertarian philosophy kind of bro, which my side note about Zack Snyder is I don't really jive with his politics, and I don't mostly like his movies, but I do like the fact that I haven't seen the Snyder cut of Justice League yet, even though I'm a huge Superman and Justice League and like DC Comics fan. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. It's just like 4 hours, man. That's a big ask.
To break it down into 3 words for me, it's not infuriating.
Well, I wouldn't have expected that, actually. It's I know it's gotten better reviews than I was expecting it to, so I am interested and kind of excited to see it.
It's oddly tender. There's another 3-1 for you. Case, get on these. I'm spinning gold right now. At least Zack Snyder is he has a vision, and he has a philosophy, and whether I agree with it or not, it's like I want to live in a world where artists get to make the shit that they want to make, and I think that's a cool thing about it, at least. The whole fanboy thing with that maybe notwithstanding, but anyway, speaking of fanboys and stuff, Alan v. Pharaoh, it was just kind of weird that was like what the trilogy of Versus movies I watched. Not a movie, but it's a 4-part mini series about
ruined my co-host.
Sorry,
broken my co-host.
Gonzo Versus movie.
Yeah, I mean, technically it's the story behind it, obviously, like, content warning, like people, anybody who trigger warning about, like, that's obviously, like, involves, if anybody knows even just like surface level, as I did going into it, I didn't really know a lot of detail about like what Woody Allen was accused of, and just what that case was all about, but I going into it was I always kind of was under the impression that, again, this involves like sexual assault allegations and involving minors, and so
grooming,
content warning.
The
And so I just wanted to make sure I don't want to like bring the mood down, but I found it really kind of interesting, like sort of from a cultural standpoint, I guess, just because I always kind of thought that the whole Woody Allen thing was sort of like whenever you hear about like Elvis Presley dated his 15-year-old cousin, and Jerry Lee Lewis married
Charlie
his second
Chaplin,
cousin, and that sort of stuff, right? I always thought it was like that was the situation, something like that with Woody Allen. That's like, obviously it doesn't make it okay or anything, or like,
right.
But just like, I always kind of thought it's like that was one of those, sort of like with, it used to be like more accepted back in the day, or like people just didn't talk about it as much or something like that. So that sort of thing happened more often back in the day. And
when age of consent wasn't really like a thing we were discussing, and like lifespans were shorter. So like, obviously we're going to marry off a 13-year-old, like whatever. We'll all die if we don't. Winter's coming.
Sure. And also, the darker sides of women having less agency, and like their parents and the man having like more of a say, and all that stuff going on there. I thought that it was that vaguely, just sort of thought that was the situation with Woody Allen. But then, watching it and learning more about it, it's like there are so many different layers to it. And, he is accused of some pretty horrific stuff. And I'm not going to go into detail about what it is exactly. But, I mean, he did, one of the actually milder things is that he, wound up marrying Soon Yi when she was, I think they started dating, supposedly, he says, when she was 21. And they wound up getting, she was Mia Farrow's adopted daughter, and I believe Woody Allen's adopted daughter.
Yes.
I think so.
I think that's sort of,
Yeah. So yeah, obviously that's like weird and messed up, and I've seen people frame it as like that relationship was like, hey, if you're gonna be like sex positive or like liberal about your like, hey, it's unorthodox, but it's like, I mean, I don't know, I maybe should leave that alone, but it's, to me, it just kind of felt like getting sort of like looking at these people's personal lives, like felt like Mia Farrow had a right to be really at least pissed off at him about that. Seemed like a betrayal on a personal level, no matter what you think of like the age gap, and they're not blood related, whatever, all that stuff. But so I didn't realize though that he had been accused of like some really like Jeffrey Epstein almost level stuff.
Oh, wow.
Like grooming, sort of the thing with not Jeffrey Epstein in orders of like on order of magnitude level, but like in terms of like young people, and it's very, very disturbing stuff, and like again, content warning, for it does go into some detail. But the thing that was like really kind of surprising to me watching that, and I was, watching it with my girlfriend, and she was, I had some good friends who were like really, really into Woody Allen movies growing up, and I've seen a handful of them, and always kind of just like, it's not really my thing, but I get like, I have friends who just like basically like idolized him growing up.
Right.
And as a filmmaker, my girlfriend was like, yeah, I've only seen one movie of his, but it just seemed really weird. Like he was just like, his character was like trying to rationalize dating a teenage girl in this movie. And that, like, right as she mentioned that, they started showing clips from Manhattan.
Right.
Which are you guys familiar with the Woody Allen oeuvre?
Yeah, for the most part. I know a lot of his movies. I haven't seen all of them, but I am aware of like his style and that he always casts the lead to represent him in the movie if he's not in the movie himself, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm familiar with most of his work.
And yeah, I thought that it was like just really, I mean, obviously like standards change and stuff, but like, in Manhattan, the main character he's in his maybe late 40s, mm-hmm. and it's played by Woody Allen, and the love interest is a 17-year-old girl. Yeah. And he like explicitly talks about her being 17 years old. And I mean, I was like watching this seriously, like my jaw was like on the floor. I was like, I mean, like I work with kids and or have in the past and stuff. So I was like watching this, like I cannot believe like I know people who like this movie. Like what the hell, like I was like feeling like, but I guess if you grew up with it, it's not. It maybe just doesn't seem that weird. You have to have like cognitive dissonance about certain things, about like Chuck Berry or the Beatles or whatever, like singing songs about like, oh, she was only 16 and that kind of thing.
Yeah, but the difference is like, this isn't one auteur known for self-insert characters having a dilemma. Like, we could go on all day about like, well, Nabokov, but like Nabokov doesn't have an instance of where he married his adopted daughter.
Right.
Like you kind of have to put a lot of context around things. And like when you think about popular music and who that is intended for, obviously like adult people are going to sing about teenage things because popular music is often for teenage people.
Sure. Taking on a different persona. Like you can be a different speaker in the song. You can be singing from the perspective of your teenage self, I think is probably what a lot of people would say. And that's, probably actually is the case a lot of the time. But then, also standards in that realm have changed over the years, and I guess like the thing that my weird hot take about the whole thing was that he was accused of some pretty horrific stuff, and after going through the whole just the narrative of how the relationship unfolded and how he was like a father figure in this family way higher degree than I had ever thought. And by the end of it's all told from Mia Farrow's perspective pretty much. And so, I kept reminding myself that, I am just seeing completely just one side of this story. Right. And, but I did kind of get to the point where it was like, when I started researching it more and just like, kind of interested in looking at other sides of this and like how the media was covering it at the time and stuff, just a very interesting, just very weird story in so many different ways. But there's all these people that just swear by Woody Allen is innocent. And when I looked at like some of that stuff, I was like, okay, yeah, I think some of these people make a compelling argument that maybe it is a little bit harder to know like who to believe. It's kind of more of a he said, she said than this documentary series kind of makes it seem. But then also having seen everything from Mia Farrow's perspective, I was also like to the point of like, if this whole narrative about her being like this scorned, crazy woman who concocted this whole thing about him being like a, sexual deviant. Even if she did sort of like, this was like her kind of, even if she was like lying about it or exaggerating partially, it's kind of like, well, he was such a piece of shit to you. I kind of honestly don't blame you that much for like thinking that he was like deserving of, I mean, obviously that's an exaggeration. Like nobody is deserving of like being accused of something that awful if they didn't do it. But like, at the same time, it's like I kind of was like empathizing with her in that regard. So I thought like, the fact that like people were able to sort of make the case that this one really horrific crime, maybe he didn't do it. I was like, I mean, he still kind of seems like a very manipulative and very selfish person to me. And there's like a montage of different celebrities who, like a few years ago with Me Too and everything, like a lot of celebrities sort of decided they're going to publicly distance themselves from Woody Allen. And he sort of, has made himself out to be a victim in a lot of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and watching some of those clips from Manhattan, and again, like I haven't seen Manhattan, but sort of, I guess like seeing the way that he frames the narrative and how it's like from what I gathered, and from what like people were saying about that film, it's sort of like he's this 40-something-year-old man with a 17-year-old girl, but he's like smart about the way that he plays the narrative. He makes it so that it's like she's the one who's like
coming on to me.
Yeah.
This
and
child person.
Right, which is obviously like, I don't know how different attitudes are about that. It seems like, that's a person of that age just cannot, consent. So that's kind of irrelevant.
Not just a person of that age, but a person of that sort of relationship of trust and bond, like someone who is a parental figure to you has mm-hmm. a completely different relationship dynamic for you than like someone of the same age who is just a guy.
Yeah.
It's very different,
Yeah. The power dynamic, obviously, that, that aspect of it is something that, fortunately, I think with Me Too is that element is something that that we've kind of brought into the conversation a lot more.
Yeah, like
and
who's really like able to dictate the direction of a relationship? Like obviously it's the person with more either like familial or systemic or like cultural power, like a very famous YouTuber predating on a fan. Also is that power dynamic of you can guide this situation because you come with a lot of privilege and power from where you are, right, versus this person who is unknown, like who's like we have to take everything in context.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess like, the intersection of art and politics has always been something I've been like very interested in. And I think that it's very interesting how like I was saying about like, me completely siding with Mia Farrow, seeing everything from her perspective in this thing. And then like knowing that Woody Allen, though, has all these like diehard fans and people who know a lot more about like the craft of filmmaking and like writing and directing than I do. And that's something that they're like a lot more passionate about and sort of like understand what a genius he is in those regards. Have a lot of trouble with that like art versus artist thing, but seems like, a lot of people have kind of finally said like, I can't really do it anymore. But, I think that's up to everybody, to make that decision themselves. I'm, not trying to like judge anybody for liking anything or anything like that. I just think it was kind of like interesting how me being somewhat from an outside party and like learning about this in a lot of ways for the first time, it just kind of really shows how the perspective that you're given can frame a narrative so much. And like Woody Allen's films have really, like, I think dictated and influenced the way that a whole couple of generations of young men, and probably a lot of young women too, think about relationships and sex. And that, seeing the little bits of that I saw, that is a very kind of discomforting fact to me to know that.
Yeah, we are what our vocabulary allows, and if your first vocabulary is Woody Allen movies, like, that's gonna make some thoughts churn. Like, okay, so that's how I describe love, I guess. That's what it looks like, because these are the definitions I've been given so far.
Yeah, I think it's also important to point out that heinous people can make good art. I'm not saying Woody Allen is... I mean, I to a degree, I have a certain already prejudgment of Woody Allen based on what I know and the allegations, everything else. But that said, like, you can be a terrible person and still make brilliant art. One does not exclude the other. And so, like, while I understand his defenders have trouble letting go of his art because of what he's done, and I get that, I've gone through that with people I've admired who have stabbed me in the back by turning out to be heinous people. It doesn't mean that you still have to continue to enjoy their art. If you do, that's your choice. But like, the terrible people can make great things. That doesn't make them great people. It's not one-to-one. And it, of course, it's difficult to reckon with that. And I get that. And I think it's really interesting, Haas, that
it takes a lot more explanation when you're approaching something. Right. Like, you can really, like, asterisk the fuck out of things. Like, yes, I really like X or Y, but I understand that, like, asterisk, like, this person did this and this and this. Or you can just do what I do, and I'll watch Woody Allen movies when he's dead.
Yeah, well, that too.
I will watch them posthumously, so we'll just wait till then. I'm pretty sure I'm going to outlive Woody Allen, and what a blessing that is for me.
Indeed.
But, like, I think it's interesting that you bring this up, and we haven't had someone bring a documentary in a while, but we have had others talk about documentaries. I think it's interesting, Haas, that you came to this thing as not a Woody Allen fan, because you would assume a lot of people are checking this out because they're either a Woody Allen fan or they just really know his work, whether they're a fan or not, and want to know more about it. The fact that you're coming with, like you said, this kind of objective, like, I don't really know, and then kind of leaning more towards Farrow's side because that's how the documentary is framed and because she seems in her right mind. It's just really interesting for you to bring that perspective to it. And it's funny because it's hard to ask in these situations, did you enjoy it, right? Because I don't know it's so much about enjoying.
But besides all of that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Right. It's like, clearly you found it interesting. I don't know. It's hard to say you would enjoy something like that, but it's clear that you found it interesting. And I think that's important, right? Especially if other people want to check it out. I'm curious, because this seems like a big subject and a lot of material. If you had to sum up this documentary in just three words, without the words Allen, V, or Farrow, what three words would you use to describe this documentary?
I've been thinking about this. I'm tempted to say piece of shit, but
I mean, you'd be not wrong.
Yeah.
So that does come to mind. Sad boy entitlement is the phrase that's been coming to mind about that this sort of genre that I don't know if Woody Allen movies necessarily fall into it, but the way that he is kind of like framing himself, and both in his films and as a public figure, as like kind of being the victim in this, or like, like, oh, well, I don't have any control over this. Like, it's just is what it is. And it just happens, and sort of like, really, I think framing everything in a very sort of selfish way that takes great care to not take other people's like experiences into account. And and I think that has informed, like, you know, the movies that came to mind. I actually listened to, are you guys familiar with the Bechdel cast with Jamie Loftus and Caitlin Durante? It's a great podcast.
It's passed in front of my eyeballs, but I have not listened to it.
Yeah.
Same. It's a feminist themed movie podcast that two great comedians host, and it's the Bechdel test is that y'all are familiar with it, I'm sure.
Yeah, Alison
right?
Bechdel, writer of Fun Home.
What is it again? It's two women have to be on screen for.
Yeah. Two named women have to be on screen having a conversation about anything other than a man. Bechdel test. It's not hard.
For at least 30 seconds or a minute or something like that. Or
I don't know if there's a time limit. I think it just has to exist and it has to happen. Like a conversation, meaning more than like 2 words back and forth. Like,
sure. And I guess you can like adapt the rules of it to, you know, probably all kinds of different identities and how they're represented. How you think for a second
the Snyder Cut passes the Bechdel test and then nope, it doesn't.
Wow, really? In 4 hours plus? Doesn't pass it out. All right. But still interested to see it, by the way. But
it's not infuriating.
But I was introduced to this idea of I think they call it like the sad boy movie, or like the entitlement kind of genre of something that I always took for granted. And, you know, I was like a songwriter, you know, sort of in the punk, somewhat pop punkish kind of realm. And, you know, also did like some, you know, acoustic folky kind of stuff that, you know, as a teenage boy writing about that stuff and looking back on it, doing a lot of like reflection on that to make my art, you know, realizing that, you know, I had absorbed a lot of probably toxic attitudes about relationships that probably gave me some, you know, sense of entitlement that at the time, you know, seemed like I was like the sensitive boy. But then, you know, sort of looking back on it, like, you know, maybe wasn't the most healthy thing. And, so, and, you know, they talk about that. They have a lot of, like, they cover a lot of concepts like that are sort of things that are really easy to like overlook, especially when you're coming to something from the perspective of like myself, you know, just like a cisgendered hetero man, you know, like, I, you know, completely have these tons and tons of blind spots. And, they, as like, you know, a feminist podcast who they also have like a lot of people of color come on, and, you know, like queer people and lots LGBTQ people talk about like film through all these different lenses. And I was an English major in college and stuff. So like, you know, I've looked at a lot of like queer theory and feminist theory and stuff like that. But like, this, you know, I can't recommend that podcast enough, the Bechdel cast, but I listened to their episode today, sort of thinking about how I was going to be talking about this on 500 Days of Summer.
I was just thinking 500 Days of Summer is perfect sad boy entitlement movie. It's absolutely like, oh, what sad boy entitlement that movie is.
Yeah, and it's
so
like
sad and entitled. I didn't understand what my relationship with a person was. I love it. What a great film.
It's the kind of thing that like you don't. It's so easy to like not to just completely overlook that, right? Mm-hmm. And not understand how like this is like film and art, like subtly, maybe not so subtly, but, you know, communicating this, maybe covertly communicating this this attitude that, you know, they see as and we accept as being like just totally healthy and normal, or just like, you know, the way it is. And you know, I think that I was just really, you know, the fact that I had been kind of like introduced to that sort of subtler form of like misogyny in film somewhat recently, within the past like couple years, and started sort of realizing things like I recently on my podcast had John Siebels of Eve 6 on.
I love John. He's great.
He's fantastic, right? Yeah. I did an interview with him a couple episodes ago, and, you know, one of the things I thought was really great that he said was something along the lines of like, some, he's like, obviously, like, our attitudes have changed a lot. Like a teenage boy talking about how fucked up his girlfriend is. Like, back then it seemed totally normal. And now I hear that and I'm like, oh, you're probably kind of an asshole.
Yeah. What did you do?
Yeah.
Question. Excuse me, sir, at open mic night. What did you do to her?
Exactly.
They can't all be crazy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do? How were you complicit in this?
And I think that like seeing the trying to see art from those different perspectives is such a beautiful thing that we're seeing so much more of nowadays, and hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of, and people just being more willing to examine their unexamined attitudes. And something like Woody Allen would have been 10 years ago to a lot of people who now are like, fuck him. It was kind of like beyond the pale to just kind of go, well, whatever. It was a different time, 1992. And but it's just cool that that we can look back on our attitudes and go, oh fuck, man, yikes, and know that we're evolving to some degree or another. So that was my little journey into looking at a 4-part, I believe, documentary series on one of the great versus was the tagline to Alien versus Predator. It's like, no matter who wins, we lose. Alan V. Farrow. And so yeah, I recommend it. Again, content warning, but it's a very interesting case, and with that content warning being said, I think that it's obviously like so important to hear this story from, I could go on about this, but like, seeing the past couple years, Monica Lewinsky, and looking back on like, shit, we were complete
awful
assholes to her as a culture.
Yeah.
And she did not deserve that at all.
Yep.
And Bill Clinton is probably a rapist. So, man, we suck.
Yeah. I mean, I think we suck is a good summation of a lot of how we've carried ourselves. I say we, the 3 white folks on this call, for the general white folk we, of the world.
I was just gonna say, we collectively as a society have been assholes to a lot of victims. I would also like to note Anita Hill. Thank you.
Yes. Absolutely.
Please include Anita in your conversations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, this was, I should have expected with a incredible YouTuber and 2 long-winded podcasters, we would run long. But before we let you go out into the world again, Haas, I would love to know a little bit about how you came up with the idea for your YouTube channel and like, what brought you to it? Like, it's clear that you've done some movie reviews, you've done a variety of different like think pieces, and you talk a lot about politics as well. I'm just kind of curious how you curate the stuff that you're making. It's clear that you are very smart, and you also are always constantly trying to take in information and learn. That's just apparent from the conversation we've just had about Alan V. Farrow. But like, what was like the impetus for the creation of your YouTube channel?
Same question.
Well, I've been consuming like 80% YouTube for the past several years. My media diet has been a whole lot of that, just like discovering the video essay format, and that it's like reading but with less work and pretty colors and stuff. Right. So that's fantastic,
and often very pretty people.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not to be mad about this.
And yeah, well, thank you so much for the kind words about that stuff. I mean, I'm a musician, and I started my YouTube channel and my my alter ego of Haas Bossman as basically an outlet for I've been in bands, like I said, over the years, and always was front man, usually bass player or guitar player, and like main songwriter in the bands and main singer. And that I was in, and for the past several years I haven't really been in a band, so I've just been making a lot of like really dumb music mostly on my iPad, half kind of lazily sometimes, and putting it up on YouTube over like footage of my beautiful dog Fancy LaRue, which she's not nearby, or I'd pick her up and show her to you, but she's amazing, and I figured I would just like put some of the silly music I was making over footage of her, because she's great to look at. She's an adorable little wiener dog.
Tell me everything about Fancy LaRue, please. What breed is this beautiful doggo?
She is I say Chihuahua. I think Chiweenie is the real term, but Chihuahua is funner to say.
Chihuahua is very fun. So Chihuahua and wiener dog?
Yeah, I think that's what she is.
What a perfect fusion.
When we're saying goodbye, I'll go and grab her and hold her up for you.
Oh my gosh, yes, please.
But I know we've been going a while, and we'll be mindful of y'all's time. So I'll just I've been listening to podcasts for like 10 years, and watching a lot of YouTube over the past several years, and really just like loving the fact that like, as a creative person, as an artist, I also have, taught high school and was like a freelance entertainment writer, and have done a lot of taught ESL, high school English. And so I have like all kinds of things that I'm like interested in, and I love to write, and kind of realized that doing these YouTube video essays was like, oh, this is like how people get their essays out. Like if they just want to write like an opinion piece about something, it's like just do a voiceover and make it look pretty. And so that's kind of why I started doing the video essays, and the podcast I started doing because I kind of already had the equipment and sort of knew how to do it. And but also like I was kind of with the pandemic going on, I was just getting really, really frustrated with like, why the fuck isn't anybody like doing anything about this? And my podcast is called Breadsheet, because I kept saying in my head, somebody needs to make a spreadsheet and just like tell me what to do, like put me in a column on this spreadsheet, and like
where can my activism go? Like, please, I want to do stuff. Thank you.
And exactly. So I was like, I'm going to finally like try to do something explicitly political. The music that I wrote was always usually had some kind of political bent to it, and I love like political punk music. Like Bad Religion is probably my favorite band. Propaganda. I was recently on a Propaganda podcast actually, which was really cool.
Wow.
Talking about a cover I did of one of their songs, but so yeah, I love like political stuff and commentary and art, and so I just kind of realized like, man, people just have no excuse if you want to like get some brain thoughts out there. You have no excuse to not just do it. So I've been having a whole lot of fun, sort of just like finding different ways to be creative. And when I was teaching high school English, I always kind of like treated every lesson plan to my detriment, and making me very exhausted as like a performance piece or like an art project. Making YouTube videos, I can just do that, and it doesn't feel like a complete like waste of time. Not complete waste of time.
Right, of course. Maybe a little bit of a waste of time.
Everyone's kind of opting in to your lesson plan.
Exactly.
On YouTube.
Exactly.
Not having to do it to go to college and make the fake getting to live money situation.
Exactly, yeah.
The thing. So I have a question, Haas.
Sure.
Who you watching on the YouTube? Who's really like lighting your fire over there? I gotta know.
Well, I love your friend Patrick Willems.
Of course.
Very good friend.
I'm a big fan of him. That was actually how I discovered you, was the Infinity podcast.
Awesome.
It's very, very, very fun way to get to me.
Yes,
it's my favorite way for people to get to me. To be honest, say found you through Patrick. What's up? Hello, welcome to my legion of sewer children.
Beautiful, beautiful sewer children.
My beautiful sewer children. Welcome.
Yeah. So I like a lot of the more just like entertainment, art, criticism centric channels like that, but also like a lot of the political people, you know, the big names, the ContraPointses and the H Bomber Guyses and Philosophy Tube, Abigail. What is her last name?
Abigail Thorne.
Thorne, yeah. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thought Slime is one of my favorites. The Surfs. Actually, you know, since I'm on I should shout out a couple of cool smaller creators that I really love. There's this one guy, Kar, Kar, who I want to have for an interview on my show sometime. He is just does these awesome videos. He's an anarchist, does really cool videos, a lot centering on racial justice issues and policing and all that kind of stuff that is sadly always very relevant. And he just does a fantastic job. And talk about a great broadcast voice. This dude is like a deep baritone, and it's. Ooh.
I'm looking him up. Sorry, my speakers are doing things.
Sounds. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Gotcha. Nailed it.
But yeah, Kar, Kar, he's awesome. That's one of my favorite smaller YouTubers, and I've there's so many great political YouTubers out there, and I want to eventually like collaborate with all of them because I don't know, everybody just kind of brings their own weirdness and creativity to that space, and it's just such a beautiful thing, the wild west of podcasting and YouTube and all these worlds where it's like there are no gatekeepers and everybody can just make their art and their nonfiction content however they want to make it, and I absolutely love it.
It's really cool how much is at our fingertips in terms of like free access, like you don't need much to start a podcast. Like you just need a mic that doesn't sound terrible.
Yeah.
That's it. Like there you go. Audacity's free. Like if you already have a Mac, GarageBand's already there. Like you already have the tools, you don't have to like buy $1,000 worth of equipment, just like write something on a notebook and then read it. On a mic, you're good. You did it.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's great. Everybody makes stuff.
Yes. I mean, if these two idiots, me and Rachel, not of course you, not you, Haas.
Yeah.
You're brilliant. But if these two idiots,
I'm a brilliant idiot.
Right? It's true. But if the two of us can make a podcast,
did you hear my takes about Shin Godzilla? Like, wow, really thinking about cinema. Here
really
and,
thinking,
like, messaging and themes.
But like,
I was really smart on this one.
You're smart on a lot of them. But what I'm saying is, if two dopey humans like us can make a podcast, literally any of you can make a podcast.
We're sweet little dingle babies.
We are.
We did it, and we did it.
And we did do it.
Too.
So Haas, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Haas.
This has been a delight. If folks aren't checking him out, please do. We're going to give you a chance to plug in a moment. But yeah.
So gather those plugs.
Plugs.
Everywhere we can get folks radicalized through your good ideas.
But first, we of course have some folks that we need to thank that we always thank every episode. So we should do that.
I must say thank you to John Presnell for the use of song Aurora off the album Fair Game featuring Stefan Rimble. It's a great jam. Love it so much. That like living for it. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Also, thank you to the incredible Katie Bug who designed our show art. She's amazing. Commission her to do all of your awesome show art. Make a show and then have her do your show art. And of course, thank you to the incredible folks at Certain POV, our network that we're on.
Thank you for not firing us. Thank you.
If you want to interact with us, you can go to certainpov.com, join our Discord server. We talk about movies and TV, video games over there. Also, if you have a moment, write us a review on your
like it on
things.
You gotta you're listening to us on a thing. If there's an option to review us on that thing,
do it
right now.
Right now, while you're listening to us wrap up the show.
About us. about Haas, about the show, about Shin Godzilla, about anything. Just go. Make something out of nothing. And that something is a review.
There you go. Like magic.
You did it. Like magic.
And finally, if you want to reach out.
I'm scared now. I feel like I let that entity out of the bottle. Huh.
And as we discussed, you can't put them back in the bottle. That's it.
Can't.
They're
Nope.
gone.
It's a callback.
You can also reach us anywhere you want on the internet. We are primarily on Twitter at @screen_snark. And then you can write us an email at screensnarkpod@gmail.com. Please reach out to us.
We're also terminally online
constantly
as our regular presence.
Yes,
so
on our own personal
those
Twitters.
way too.
Absolutely.
Like, get in there.
And now,
however,
briefly, before we ask Haas our final question, Haas, Bossman, tell folks where they can find you and your work on the internet.
I am at www.haas.fun is like the main hub. I love that .fun is a thing that you can do now. And so, yeah, just Haas, HOSS.fun. And on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch, and Patreon, actually. I'm Haas_Bossman on all of those. And Twitch, I've been wanting to do more like live streams of me playing music. I've been trying to get more back into that. I started teaching guitar lessons recently down in this new town down here in the swamp that I just moved to. So I'm trying to get, playing music again more regularly. And so, yeah, I'm on Twitch and all those places. But yeah, Haas.fun. My YouTube channel is just Haas Bossman. And that's accessible through that website. And then there was one. Oh, I have a podcast.
Yes.
I think that's kind of my it's like 50-50, the podcast and the YouTube channel. I kind of like do one, then I do the other, do an episode of the podcast, then do a YouTube video, and alternate as quickly back and forth between those two things as I can, which is sadly not as quickly as I'd like to sometimes. But I pretty much, I get an episode of the podcast out every 2 weeks roughly, and new YouTube video like every 2 to 4 weeks at that Haas Bossman YouTube channel. And then Breadsheet is the name of my podcast, and I make a lot of music and do a lot of silly things with that. Sometimes I do like solo episodes where I basically just write a very like rough outline of like an essay that's sort of stream of consciousness, and just talk about like different thoughts on things in the news. But I like make a lot of music and do different segments, review things, recommend things, and then I do like long form, usually 1 to 2 hour long interviews with people from, I'll do like professors, journalists, comedians, artists, musicians. Usually
the occasional
with
idiot podcaster.
Podcast hosts, wonderful, amazing podcast hosts like yourself. Rachel Corky Shank is on I believe that was a 2-parter.
I think it was.
Episode. Yeah. That was a fantastic one.
It was a great time. Haas is good. Haas is a good host.
Thank you very much. Rachel Corky Shank is a fantastic guest, and people love that so much. And that was, I believe that episode's called A Labor of Loaf. I try to make each episode a bread pun, but I fail sometimes. But I was able to do it with you. And that most recently, like I said earlier, John Siebels of Eve 6, I had him on, and next episode is going to be Mick West, which this is a pretty big milestone. This is think what you will about Joe Rogan. Like, I do not pay attention to him anymore, especially since he's gone exclusively to Spotify. But he's kind of a turd in a lot of ways. But this is a guest who has been on Joe Rogan like 3 times, and he's not like a weird Joe Rogan-y kind of guest type guy. He's a conspiracy debunker sort of dude. Runs metabunk.com, and he's kind of a politically he's like a social democrat type, so he's not like one of those weird like reactionary people who goes on Joe Rogan sometimes. But this is the first guest I'll have on who has been on Joe Rogan, which is like, that's like the biggest podcast ever, so I feel like that's kind of an accomplishment there. But yeah, Breadsheet's my podcast, so thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, this has been a blast, but you're not out of the woods yet. I do need Rachel to ask you our final question before we let you back into the wilderness to haunt the forest of YouTube. I don't know where I'm going with that. Rachel, please help.
to haunt the forest of leftist YouTube. It's a dangerous, foggy forest, but pretty cool. We light campfires for you. It's fine. Haas, in the world of cinematic storytelling, we have a lot of tropes that have emerged. I gotta know, if you could pick one cinematic trope to instantly and magically be true in your life, which one would you choose?
Okay, it might be kind of an obvious one, but it's a practical one, and it's fun to say. I don't even know if this counts as a trope, but a Deus Ex Machina, preferably one that I can go, "You son of a bitch," right after they save my ass from whatever.
An instant,
that's a great one.
It is a great one. An instant moment where something happens that obviously saves the day and fixes the plot of your life.
Yeah.
Why not?
Exactly.
Someone
Yes.
call the adult for the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Get on in here.
We need
help.
We need help.
Help. Help us, please.
Excellent. Well, that is a perfect choice. Haas, you've been a perfect guest. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Haas.
Thank y'all so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
And please, again, go check out Haas and all those places. Go to haas.fun, which is just fun to say.
Haas.fun.
Haas.fun. But
put it on a blimp.
put it on
Seriously.
a blimp, right? People still put stuff on blimps, right?
I don't know, but I want it on a blimp.
I, of course, want to thank my incredible, stunning, beautiful, and charming co-host, the incredible Rachel Quirky Shank.
And I want to thank my cancerous kaiju boardrooms co-host, Matt, a.k.a. Storm.
You're not even trying anymore.
No, I can't. You just outclass. You clown on me.
I clown on you.
Every time.
I do.
So now I have to dance.
You have to dance.
Like a little clown. Because I can.
And of course, thank you to you, our loyal listeners.
Thank you, listeners.
Thank you for being a part of this experience. And as always, we'll see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere. Bye-bye.
We've made difficult decisions.
And there are still more ahead of us.
2 people aren't enough to save the galaxy.
We need the toughest,
Smartest.
deadliest allies.
We need you.
We need you to join us.
And listen to Reignite.
A certain point of view podcast about storytelling.
Love.
And Mass Effect.
Join us every other Thursday as we fight for the fate of an entire galaxy.
You can find us everywhere you get your podcasts.
Or at certainpov.com/reignite.
We're counting on you.
We should go.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.